These Brassicas right here, right on the edge of this cornfield, they aren't really the biggest, and this was a wintergreens mix, so there is no purple top turnips in here. As you can tell, it's just all forage rape and forage kales. And the deer are hitting on them, but from my experience last year, they'll browse this all the way down to here about. Once it gets, you know, later in the winter and they get hungry and hungry, they'll take this, just take it all the way down to the ground practically. If you look at it, is January, and there is it's practically January, December 30th today, and there is tons of green forage left, even though they've nipped off a lot of stuff on the top. And you can tell they nipped these off, and this plant tried to grow back. That's what these small leaves are. And these wintergreens plants, they can get nipped all the way down to a couple inches tall, and they'll start to grow back in April. They'll have little leaves. And I had a few in our food plots last year that actually tried to grow back, and they grew leaves about this big, and then they got about this big, then they went out to seed in the early summer. And the deer were eating on them, these little tiny leaves, in April after they regrew. And from my experience, this wintergreens mix is probably the kale in there. The wintergreens kale is the only variety of brassica that I've ever planted that actually have come back in the spring and to regrow, and the deer to get a second feeding off of it. It's just crazy how strong and hardy this kale is. So I'm going to take you up to our other wintergreens plot up there in the hill. Well, here we are. This is the wintergreens mixed with late planted soybeans and a little bit of winter wheat. That's what this is right here. This was just some leftover seed. I had winter wheat and some brassicas, and I threw it in here, and you can tell it's growing still. The winter wheat. Winter wheat and winter rye will continue to grow all winter long into the spring if you get enough warm days like this. These brassicas didn't do good. I think the pH is a little bit screwed up in this plot, because as you can tell, stump, 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 stump there, stump there. This is all trees. It looked just like that. Cedars and black walnuts. So I think next year we got to come in here and we got to lime this. We're definitely gonna do a soil pH. We're probably gonna have to add in a bunch of lime. And as you can tell, I left this stump alive because it's, you know, creating a bunch of good browse for the deer. As you can tell, it's probably sucking a little bit of moisture and nutrients, but this is the main tree that had to get out of here. This is a big cedar. These soybeans did produce, and it looks like most of their pods are already gone. These pods are kind of underdeveloped, because these were planted like in July. But I think next year I'm going to plant all this into soybeans, because it seems like the soybeans did actually pretty good up here. But the brassicas, the last 2 years I've had them up here, they usually don't get the biggest. Right here it looks the best. Got a pretty good sized one right here, but in some of these areas I think the pH or something is really off, and that's what we got to correct. And some of these brassicas just never really turn into much, as you can tell. Alright, so this right here is just a tiny little strip of brassicas. I just sprayed seeded this. This was mainly like Dinkin radish and like forage rape. Just as another little extra bit of forage for the deer. You can tell they already cleaned up most of this stuff, but there's still like some forage here. And then this spot right here is like a clover food plot. I think this is a really good, basically what I did is I sprayed this with about a ½ ounce of glyphosate per gallon, because the clover is like really hardy, and it did stunt the clover for about a month or two. But then I realized none of the weeds were in here, and it was just a little bit of clover, so I broadcasted some winter rye, and it filled all the blank spots right in perfectly. So I got winter rye and clover. The winter rye is going to come back next spring, but I'm going to mow it and then seed in some more clover probably. So this area right here is Antler King Lights Out with Dinkin radish mixed in. Basically this stuff had a lot of these oats. That's what all this junk is. And these oats are only good until like the first frost. You can see all that straw type stuff. These are all dead. There's quite a few purple top turnips in this mix, but it's a little shady here and these things didn't get that big. So anyways, up in some of those areas it looks a little better. Food plot is kind of just wrapping around all this brush. It's kind of partial shade, or quite a bit of shade actually, so the stuff never really gets to its full potential here. But this is just a little staging area before they get out to the bigger food plots. Kind of the winter's food sources are out there. This stuff's usually pretty much ate up and gone pretty fast. So this right here was spray and seed or no-till brassica method. You can see this deer trail right here. Can you see it? Isn't that pretty crazy? radish in here as well. But you can kind of see, kind of looking for the purple top turnips, I think. That's right, I don't think there was any purple top. This is wintergreens on this side, and that's honey hole on that side. We'll head over there in a little bit. But this deer trail goes right along the corn and kind of the weeds in the swamp here. And just look at that. They got this deer trail right through the brassicas, worn right down to the ground. So they must have been out here like every night. You know. There's even a raccoon track on there. Oh, and then this right here. I remember I did plant some late planted soybeans in here, and that's what this is right here. These beans were planted in like July, so they didn't really have enough time to produce, but there is pods in here kind of, but they're really small, so the deer probably won't eat them. But they were great forage during the summer and fall. Right here's a couple purple top turnips right there. Right here, we're in our little bit of our standing corn right here, and look down, you can see all these brassicas I mixed in with the corn. I believe I seeded it when the corn was about waist to shoulder high, but this corn's pretty thin right here. We had about, I think, 38-inch rows, so that's why some of these brassicas were able to get enough sunlight to grow and produce quite a bit of forage. They look kind of dead, but like I said, they're gonna munch on them all the way down to the ground throughout the winter. I mean, they got a few leaves off already. Like here's a really good example. They'll eat on this all the way down to about here. Some of our other food plots, later in the winter time, they'll munch them all the way down. It's just crazy. See some of these purple top turnips, when you give them enough room to grow, they get the size of softballs. So right here is the first Brassica food plot that I planted this year at the farm. This is Antler King's honey hole. And it's quite a bit of grass in here. This food plot was planted in late June because I wanted to test out and see how big these brassicas could get if they would get, like, you know, have more time to grow. But it kind of dried up in early July or mid-July. So actually most of the other brassica plots are just as big as this plot got. Right here it's kind of weedy, but if you get down to the end it starts to look a little better. But yeah, there's tons of food. Or tons of leaves already gone and tons of food left too. Got a few brassicas right here just on the edge of the cornfield. Purple top turnips in there. Alright, so these are some trail camera pictures now. This is from that clover plot with the mixed in winter rye. And not too many daylight pictures, but right here, you know, there's some nice bucks and stuff chasing does around right around middle of December here. Here's that tall fork, few in the late afternoon. But I had a trail camera here last year, got tons of great action, and as you can tell, they're probably mainly eating on the winter rye right now, not the clover. But and then this is another trail camera location, kind of close to the first cornfield in the video. And this is actually, that's right after gun season. That was like the second to last day. All those does were out there, which is kind of surprising. And here comes that big 10-pointer again. And this buck coming up right here, he came in and hit this little cedar scrape. This is a buck I don't have a ton of pictures of. He's like super camera shy. You can tell he notices the camera eventually, and he never ever comes into those vine mock scrapes. I don't know what it is with him. He must be like a super shy, like maybe he doesn't want anything to do with the bigger bucks. That big 10-pointer might, I don't know what it is. He's just a really smart, shy buck. He's really camera shy, but he's a nice looking buck. I think he's probably only a 3-year-old because I got pictures of him last year. Okay, so this is another trail camera location. I ran this trail camera mainly just during the rut, up during until about now. I took it down. And I actually did set up a vine mock scrape on this spot too. And you can see like right about in the middle of the screen, you can kind of see it. It's kind of hard to see. But anyways, they didn't really use this one as much as some of the other ones. And I had a few other ones that didn't really get used much either, probably because it's kind of in like a random location, kind of like on a minor deer trail in the middle of the woods. And it's a pretty open woods, as you can tell. They can kind of move through here without, you know, using it. And you can actually kind of see it right there to the right of these two deer. You can see the doe is bedded, but right next to them, you can kind of see it there. But like I said, you got to put them in areas that are already good, like scraping areas, travel corridors, areas that are already being used a lot by the deer. And you're just going to make that spot even better than what it already is. You can't just expect to put it in a random location kind of like this and automatically get awesome results and tons of deer using it. But that could happen, but I'm just saying, to have the best chance of these vine mock scrapes working is you got to put them in already decent areas, and you're just going to make that spot even better than what it already is. Well, that's about it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, or subscribe, and I got more content coming to you soon, so stay tuned.